Rebecca, what are you doing in this place?
Your right hand comes off?
You saved me!
Yeah.
Those zombies are everywhere! Not to mention that thing that got Ben.
It's called Two Brothers. Two Brothers. It's just called Two Brothers.
Welcome to another episode of Two Brothers. Tonight's episode we'll be reviewing Resident Evil Village. We passed it a few days ago, so we'll be giving you guys our spoiler too. So we're gonna be like digging into spoiling. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you don't want to spoil it?
Not really.
All right. Well, we'll try our best not to spoil the game, but we will be reviewing it. And before we get into that, we want to thank everybody who has been tuning in to the episodes. We're recording this right after a few episodes have come out. So thank you guys for the support. And moreover than that, we want to give a credit to the producer of the music for the theme song that we've used for our YouTube videos. He is X on the Beat. You can check out his YouTube channel. And you can also support him on Instagram as well, at prod underscore X on the Beat. Really cool theme song. So thank you for letting us use that song for our theme song. I kind of tweaked it a little bit, but yeah, nothing but love for that guy. That's because we struggled to find a theme song.
Thank you, my guy.
Yeah, so with that out of the way, let's get into Resident Evil Village. I've been kind of eager to talk about this game because it is definitely one of the biggest hits so far
of this year.
So,
and I would say it's one of the contenders of Game of the Year.
I was
surprised by this game. So it sounds like you want to start it off. You sound like more excited, so go ahead.
We're both really excited to talk about this game, so let's get into it. So Resident Evil Village is a direct sequel from 7. So it's a continuation of the story of Ethan Winters. Without giving too much away about the plot, he has to go to basically like some fucking crazy ass village with a bunch of werewolves and vampires and all this. He needs to go through all this shit just to go save his daughter Rose after a pretty tragic incident happens in the beginning of the game. I don't think we're giving too much away because that's in the fucking trailer, but for those who want to go in blind, haven't played Resident Evil 8, well, first off, if you haven't played 7, you should probably play 7 before you play 8.
Oh yes.
That's a no-brainer.
Well, there's a recap on the video game. So,
but 7 is such a fantastic game too.
Yeah,
so definitely play that too. But that's the story of Resident Evil 8, and it's also in first person, just like Resident Evil 7, and it builds upon what 7 did, and right out the gate, it starts off with a bang. Like it fucking thrusts you into this new world that you haven't really seen in any Resident Evil games, and it has such a crazy fucking beginning, just like 7, if not even crazier, I think. What do you think?
To me, it kind of reminded me of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah,
like when you go to the center of the village, and it's kind of like an ambush. And you just gotta survive.
A lot of comparisons with 4, which we'll be talking more about. But the opening is definitely reminiscent of Resident Evil 4.
For the first time, it was so intense.
It was, and that was something that was kind of missing with Resident Evil. Like I think you mentioned that Resident Evil 7 didn't give you that kind of intensity.
It was more. Like, I don't want to say the word, but more jump scare, more of the scares. Resident Evil 7, they'll try to, I guess, scare you throughout the game.
Mm-hmm. Without giving you tension.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some tense moments at 7 for sure. But this fucking just turns it up to 11 on everything. And we even see Resident Evil 8, or Resident Evil for the first time do some psychological shit.
True.
which we have not seen in Resident Evil games. That I don't think I want to
You
spoil
wanna
that
spoil-
section, but you'll see what we're talking about if you play it. But we're gonna be all over the place. But we talked about the opening, and I think that's a great segue to talk about the combat in the game, which is also feels a lot like Resident Evil 4, just like in first person.
What do you mean? It's,
The combat of the game.
to me, it just feels more better. They they fixed the control. They tightened it up on this one. Or 7 was more. I don't know how to explain it.
Well,
You know, it was there's a different between 7 and 8 combat, but yeah, I think this one was much better to me. So
yeah, and it also ties in with the story too. Ethan got some military training,
like
so
Chris,
so he's a lot more well equipped when it comes to these kinds of situations, and it really translates into gameplay too. How he reloads is different. He does it a lot more smoother. He knows how to defend himself. There's like a pushback. You know, you can kick enemies away and shit.
that's true.
Which kind of reminds me of Resident Evil 4, to kind of give you more space between you and the enemies. Which the enemies are really
They should have added where you shoot them and stun the enemy. You know how you can go up to them. And
yeah.
That
would
should
be
have been
kinda
on there. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
cool.
Which if you played, what the fuck's it called? The DLC with Chris in Resident Evil 7? Not a Hero?
Not a hero. I
He
think.
he does it. You can stun enemies and you can like
Oh yeah,
do
yeah,
an
that's true.
executions. But this doesn't. You can't do that here with 8, unfortunately. But yeah, and they do a lot of different shit this time. It's not just the molded that you fight. Well, you don't fight the molded, but it's not just one enemy type.
It's
in
different
8.
type of enemies,
There's
which I
different
liked.
enemies, a lot of different variety.
How in Resident Evil 7 it was just more linear, and it was just the molded that you fought, which was lacking in that one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that was one of the biggest complaints I think a lot of people had was
just
not enough
not
variety.
really. Yeah.
And you were right, it is kind of linear in 7 where it's, I mean, you are backtracking and there's different areas, but it's all contained on that, like, house. And, I mean, you do explore different places, but for the most part, it's pretty linear. And then with Village, completely different. You get to explore a lot more. You get to do, like, little side quests, I guess. I don't know if there was, like, really side quests, but you can explore to find different treasures and optional
I would
mini
say side
bosses.
quests,
Yeah.
even though it's not. But yeah, you do little, exploration, like backtracking, like you said, later on throughout the game.
And then another thing that's implemented is the merchant. There's a merchant now in 8, the Duke. And
He's growing on me. I'm still used to the what you're buying.
Yeah, the regular merchant, the original OG.
Yeah.
But yeah, just another comparison with 4. You can upgrade your weapons. You can customize them so you can add different attachments to it. You can sell shit like treasures, and you can cook shit so you can like upgrade your
defense
health,
and
yeah.
your health. Yeah.
Not really. You don't cook shit. You cook like fish,
Oh my god.
chicken, and shit like that.
Oh yeah, and chicken. What you said, pork.
Yeah.
So stuff like animals
meat,
that run the
pigs,
village.
yeah,
You have
all
to
that
kill, so
shit.
you can do that.
Again, with the enemies, they're really. I think that's what brings the intensity of them. You were talking about how the werewolves are just. Their behaviors, their AI is very like erratic. They're like moving around a
Yeah.
lot. They're in your fucking face all the
Face.
time.
Yeah.
Some of them are shooting you with fucking like arrows, and then it just gets more crazier as the game goes along. And then let's talk about the bosses. How about you talk about the bosses first? What do you think about them?
Well, before I jump there, I want to say that this is becoming one of my favorite Resident Evil games, which is weird. I wasn't expecting to be that fun of a game.
Well,
As in what?
what made you think this game wasn't going to be as fun?
I don't know. It's just coming off of 7 with like just how linear it was.
Yeah.
But like to me, I stayed away from gameplay and mostly the trailers.
For 7?
Yeah, for 8.
Oh, for 8.
That's
yeah,
why,
that's
to
true,
me,
yeah.
everything was new and exciting and like intense. You know, everywhere I went, like new areas, new enemies, new bosses.
Yeah.
You know, like how in 7, it was like we were talking about, just it's linear, not enough enemies. To me, I felt like they were trying to do this new direction with the first person and this new character, stuff like that. They were testing the waters, basically, and they saw how people fell in love with it, and they said, okay, you know, part 8 will just expand a little bit and see where this goes. And I feel like the same thing. People fell in love how they let you explore a little bit. You know, it's kind of open world in this game.
Yeah, it's like I would say it's kind of a little bit of a
Open world.
It's
Yeah.
a bit,
You can explore.
Yeah, you can explore. You can go back to different parts, and some parts are locked, so you have to come back later when you have certain items. And
which
shit
makes
like that.
sense, yeah. Because if you do go back, you get all these treasures to upgrade your guns and stuff like that. So it's worth going back and exploring and all this stuff. So yeah, like, man, it's like, I don't know how to explain. Like the first time I played it through, like the first, I would say 4 hours, maybe 5, was intense. You know, throughout, you know, like we were just talking about that, like the little ambush in the beginning of the in the village, entering the castle. You know, being chased by the vampire lady and
Lady Dimitrescu
and
Dimitrescu
their daughters and stuff. It was intense, man.
Yeah, that's
so
so we didn't talk too much about the bosses. You kind of the part of it, but we mentioned the tall vampire lady. And
she's one of them.
She's the first boss that you
Well,
encounter.
plus her
and
her
sisters, daughters,
sisters, or her daughter, basically.
Yeah, but and then that whole, I think the whole castle section is definitely my favorite. It takes a while to kind of get used to because there's just so much areas to explore in that area. I mean, in that section of the game. But I liked how Lady Dimitrescu played like Mr. Axe and shit, just chasing you around. I don't think she's as persistent as like Jack or Mr. X, but she definitely does have a presence when she comes around. The music plays and and it's like she's fucking chasing you. She's talking shit to you and all this. The daughters I thought were a little disappointing, you know, because you just find them and then or encounter them and you just end up dispatching them like it's nothing.
Oh yeah, the new, I guess, enemies / boss types is that lady Heisenberg.
We don't want to get too much away.
Why? I'm not gonna. What do you mean? We're just naming them. How's that giving out?
I just don't spoil the transformations of the bosses.
No,
I guess, but okay, go ahead.
That toad-looking guy, I forgot his name.
Morero or something.
Morero and the doll maker.
Yeah.
You know, when they first introduced you to him,
or some shit. Go ahead,
when they first introduced you to him, to me, as a fan of Resident Evil, you know, you're probably gonna say that, you know, it's like it's outrageous to this point, which I like, but now we're fighting vampires, werewolves, and guys with fucking, you know, powers, basically. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it's
like superpowers and all this shit.
It's so weird. Like,
yeah, it definitely is a bit odd that they're taking that route, but
it works. Yeah,
it works in this game for sure.
Which I'm not shitting on it. Just we're at the, like, to me, oh man, we're at this point already. Like, we're so fed up with zombies and Las Plagas and all this. Now we're at this point of how Resident Evil is.
I mean, to me, that's fine. Yeah, you know, because again, with comparing it to Resident Evil 4, when Resident Evil 4 came out, people were also fed up with zombies, and so they gave you more smarter enemies to fight. And then with 8, they kind of do the same thing. You're not fighting just stumbling zombies or like the mold. You're fighting enemies that are fucking smart. Yeah. And they're coordinating and shit, which reminds me a lot of 4.
So those are the bosses. And without spoiling them, yeah, like with the dollmaker. You go to her house. It's kind of like, I don't. Would you say it's kind of like PT, like that section when you fight the dollmaker?
Yeah, it's more
Like,
it's more psychological for sure.
Yeah, it's creepy. Like, oh my god.
I don't want to spoil too much of that
yeah.
section, but yeah, it definitely is reminiscent of like Silent Hill, and almost kind of like Fatal Frame in the sense that you don't really fight
That's
anything, but it definitely is intense. Probably the most intense part of the fucking game.
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that because it's definitely a good surprise.
You fight that tall-looking guy. It's gonna remind me of that section of Resident Evil when you fight. What do you call that thing in the fucking lake or?
In Resident Evil 4?
Yeah.
Fuck, it had a name. I think it was like Delgado.
Delgado?
Oh, fucking fight it. But
Well,
yeah,
that
it's
fish
like
creature.
the lake monster, dude.
Yeah, that's kind of. It just reminded me of that section too. Like, then who else am I missing? Well, you fight her in the castle, the lady, the vampire lady,
which is more traditional.
Which is
Resident Evil,
to me,
sure.
I thought, like I said, I didn't see a lot of trailers. I kept myself in the dark, which is to me was a great idea for me. Not spoiling all this, but I thought the majority of the game is going to be based in that castle.
Me too.
The way they promoted that section of the game.
Yeah.
So it was kind of disappointing to me because I got used to it, like discovering and knowing where everything goes at in that castle. Then you explore different areas of the village or that town wherever you're at.
I think it works in its favor because like it keeps you just when you're getting comfortable, it fucking pulls the rug out from under you and like throws you in a different section and you're like, oh, where the fuck am I? What am I supposed to do now? And it's very Resident Evil,
So, what do you got to say about the bosses? I liked them.
I liked them too. I liked them. I don't think they're as memorable as the one in 7. Nothing I don't think will be as memorable as the bosses in 7.
The 7 bosses?
Yeah, well, if we're comparing it with 7, because these two are very similar, then I would say 7 has better bosses than 8.
That's where I differ the Miffers. Sorry.
The fuck?
I think these ones are better to me.
I don't know, man.
Fighting Jack, let us know in the comments.
Fighting Jack with the chainsaw and shit. It was spoilers for no one who hasn't played 7. Fighting Jack with the fucking chainsaw. You fight him 3 times in that game. And then the first time you're fucking like you're driving a car and you're fucking hitting him in the garage. That shit's intense. Or the fucking lady. I forgot what her name is.
Oh my God. Marguerite,
fighting her as a fucking spider like creature. That's just stuff of nightmares. And then like Lucas is like, I'm gonna be biased, but it's like very Saw inspired. I don't know. I like that more than the bosses in 8. The bosses in 8 were more epic.
Now that I'm looking back, you're right.
Yeah, now that I'm looking back,
you're looking back.
Bitch,
shut up,
fucker,
cocksucker,
dickhead.
All right, so where we're at? So we got you're the boss fights. Okay. Yeah. Well, besides, I would say the vampire lady, that one was great as a boss fight.
I agree too.
After that,
they kind of go down in quality for you.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not as memorable to me.
No,
and they end pretty fucking quick, with the exception of the doll maker, which is kind of drawn out a little bit because it's trying to make you feel more afraid, scared and shit. But most bosses, they kind of just end abruptly, I think. And I don't know, like without giving too much away, but with like Heisenberg's fight, I think it was really grand and epic, but it just felt so out of place.
Yeah, I'm telling
with
you.
Everything that you've done before then. And the thing that I liked about 7 is like seeing Ethan react to the situation he was in and how fucking I wouldn't say outnumbered. What's the word I'm looking for? But he was definitely going up against some pretty great odds in 7 with those bosses.
Yeah.
And with 8, it just felt like you have everything and You can just kill them, no problem. You know, I didn't have much problem with the bosses in this game. And where 7, like, it took me a few tries, and I don't know, I like that challenge with 7. So I don't know, it might be controversial. I know some people might like 8's bosses, but for me, 7's was just...
We don't know. Let's see. We have to keep playing it to see if we dig, you know, these new boss battles. But playing, you're right. Like, they're not so...
They're not very Resident Evil for you.
Yeah.
I mean, except for maybe, like, the guy that's in the fucking swamp or the fucking... Like, he transforms a few times and shit, but, like...
Besides that...
Nothing's ever gonna beat, like, Resident Evil 2, where Williams transforms, like, 3 or 4 fucking times. And you're having to fight him again and again and again. Mm-hmm. Or Nemesis, where he transforms in 3, and you're having to fight him again. I don't see that with 8.
Okay.
You know?
I also like how throughout the game you figure out, like, it ties up with 7 with like loose ends that like if you had questions about it answers, you know, those questions here on Resident Evil without spoiling them. And I was like, fuck, like that's a good way to tie it with 7, and
it blew my mind. And what's funny is that, like, I knew what was gonna happen in 8. I already told you and everything, but it had some surprises up its sleeve, man.
I know we're jumping so far, but my favorite part, because Chris is my favorite character, and finally get to play him the way he is in this one. You know, more, how do you say, skilled at what he does now.
Yeah, he's
not a fucking boulder punching fucking maniac and shit and taking steroids. Yeah. Dude, it felt nice to play with Chris. I wish they had a little bit longer section with him. You know?
Hopefully we're not spoiling too much, because I feel like we're talking a lot about more of the end game shit. But
he's in the fucking trailer. How that's you? Oh.
But no one knows you're playing as Chris, do they?
Yeah, you can.
Well, now they know. You can play as
Chris. That's a tiny fucking spoiler already.
Okay, good.
Jeez,
fine.
We're not spoiling, you know.
See, I feel like we should have just fucking spoiled the whole thing.
I don't think so. We're doing good so far.
Okay, fine.
And yeah, I liked how like it leads up with 7, you know, the loose ends that you had questions about, and where the mold came from, about Mia, about Ethan, all of this, you know, it's nice to have those questions answered, you know, which is cool. And it's cool how you guys already know, like, that new infection is the molded, right? Yeah. That's what they call it. And this new one, fuck, I forgot what they call this, like the virus on this one is
Malted meat?
Malted meat or something like that, right?
Let me look it up.
But yeah, knowing where the mold came from, it has its history also. If you read the files and all this stuff, it was like, it blew my mind. Like, what the fuck? Are you telling me this molded was also there all this time?
Yeah, it was there at the beginning.
Yeah, which was cool. So, are you figuring it out or what?
Yeah, hold on. Megamycete.
Yeah, Megamycete.
That's right. So yeah, it rewards you for reading files and exploring and just learning more about Resident Evil's lore, which at this point is really convoluted, but I don't know, it was pretty easy to follow.
Yeah.
Especially if you've just been playing Resident Evil games, it's not super confusing. So, and then of course, the ending kind of sets up for another sequel. I mean, that's not a huge surprise.
No.
So they're obviously already going to be making, if not already making it at this point.
Oh yeah, when I was looking into it, months before Resident Evil got released, or Resident Evil 7, I mean, they started working on 8 right away.
Yeah.
So that has to tell you, maybe as we speak, they're already working on 9. You know,
yeah.
They already have this planned out already. So it's great to see where this, I guess, trilogy of Ethan and I guess you can say his family where it leads to. So.
Shout out to his family.
So yeah.
Yeah, and so other than that, there's the reintroduction of the mercenaries. It's back in this game, which we haven't seen in a while. And it's very different too. It's not what you remember from original Mercenaries. There's some added features when you play, so it's like you get to buy the guns you want to use and upgrade those guns after each stage. You get to pick up abilities. It's just a lot more arcade like than it has before, which I know Mercenaries has always felt like an arcadey feel,
yeah.
But this definitely kind of reminds me of like when you would go to that section in Resident Evil 4 when you're shooting targets and everything.
Oh yeah,
it kind of feels like that. Even after each section, it kind of like gives you all like your score, and it drops down just like 4 and everything. That was, I don't know, I think that's really cool too.
well, Mercenaries it looks fun. I seen you play. I haven't played it yet, but seeing you play looks fun. So
it looks really fun. And
that's a good add on to the game.
And I just found out there's fucking 6 stages in that game.
So you're saying you gotta be all 6?
It's all 6 of them
to get the fucking lifesaver.
Which that's all I was gonna talk about. Yeah, 6 stages.
Fuck
6 fucking stages.
Fuck that shit.
And they're all like the same.
I say fuck that shit because like you gotta rank in a specific S ranking, double S. I mean, on all of them, and each one I feels like it gets more intense. They add more enemies and
more
it
challenging.
Gets more
which is kind of in line with all the rest of
which is
Mercenaries.
okay, but trying to get that S or double S ranking and
it's really
unlocking that cool fucking lightsaber.
But it's definitely worth it. I'm not gonna say it's not worth it, but it's for those who want to keep playing Resident Evil 8 after you finish the story. You've got a lot to fucking, because you got New Game Plus as well. If you want to play on different difficulties, you can do that.
The challenges that
you can do the challenges, because it also has a store kind of like Resident Evil 3 remake, where you get to buy different weapons and items like you would after you pass the game. You can unlock the trophies and go for that, so you can be more of a completionist. And there's a lot more incentive, a lot more replayability.
I don't know if it comes with the game already, or if you pre-ordered the deluxe edition. That's what we got. But I would say once you beat the game and go to your bonuses, go to the concept art of that game.
Oh yeah.
It has concept art for 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And it gives you ideas and stories and stuff they scrapped from those 2 games of where they were going with.
Yeah. Which is very interesting for 8 too.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil it because
a huge character was supposed to be in 8,
which was cool to see if they did add that into the game. So, do you guys a favor? Do that. Read the concept art.
Who knows? Maybe this character will come back as DLC, because 7 did DLC.
That's what they were saying.
We'll do DLC as well.
So that's a cool addition too. Like, gives you a little spoiler, not spoilers, but like what could have been in those games, which was cool to see.
And I think a thing for me that I really was excited for is like this is definitely setting up for an RE4 remake, definitely. And it just gets me so more pumped up.
Why is it me that I feel like during, how do you say, Ethan's like little section in that village and where the fuck is he?
He's in Europe.
He's in Europe. Yeah, there you go. He's in Europe.
Because he lives in Europe.
Why did I get that feeling like when he was doing his own shit? I feel like across the other country of Europe or whatever, Leon's doing his own shit too. I feel like it's taking it at the same time. I don't know. I just felt that. I felt that way. Like, Leon's somewhere out there too, dealing with this shit. So
and man, I just if they end up, because I'm pretty sure they are. If they end up making a remake of 4, no doubt it's gonna be fucking like amazing. Because if there's anything to go by with Village. These developers know what the fuck they're doing.
To me, I felt like they like with the boss battle in that swamp, the village, how it
The
looks.
section and everything. Which you can even shoot down treasures like you would in 4.
Yeah.
You find little shiny objects and shoot them down.
Like some sections of the game sounded like the music sounded like Resident Evil 4 to me.
Yeah. You can combine treasures like you would in 4.
So I felt like they're, like I said, like they're testing the waters to see how people feel. But like you say, the treasure,
Combining
the
treasures. The look of the game
Stuff
looks
like
very
that,
much
so-
like 4.
Yeah, so I feel like if once they hear their feedback, say, add this to, Resident Evil 4,
So yeah, I mean, we haven't talked too much about what we don't like in the game. What are some stuff you didn't like about Village? Because it's not perfect, that's for sure.
The only thing I didn't like, there's some things that the thing that comes to mind is, it kind of has that feeling like Code Veronica. It stays its welcome, some
Overstays as well. Yeah, we didn't talk about the length. Apparently, it's supposed to be like 15 hours long.
That's if you beat it in hardcore,
or if you really do take your time. But we ended up passing it like
I beat it under
8 hours. Right? Me too. Is like around 8
our
hours.
first run.
So I definitely see this a game where you can speed run it like in fucking 3 hours if you just ignore the treasures and everything. But yeah, the length is one of the more longer Resident Evil games for sure, if you take your time. But yeah, that is something that, luckily, I did enough exploring with like the game didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome, but especially towards that last part of the game, with the factory, is very tedious. Feels like a fucking maze.
Yeah.
Very annoying.
I found that,
And it also gives you some of the more tougher enemies. And it feels like you're just wasting a lot of fucking ammo. So I can only imagine how it is like on hardcore. You have to really be, like, you've got to really strategize. Which is a good thing, but if this is your first time, like your first playthrough, I think you should either play it on casual or just standard.
Yeah.
And just enjoy the experience. Because the factory really does take out some of that magic, I guess, some of the fun out of the game a little bit, because you're just running around doing a bunch of shit, and it just, I don't know, it did feel a lot like Code Veronica. It actually kind of is like Code Veronica. You're like doing certain puzzles that feel just like the first one, where you're having to like copy shit and create different
stuff,
like the exact copy of something. It feels like Veronica, like Code Veronica.
I think like we were just saying earlier, like the boss battles, except like the Lady Vampire one was great. So they just lack, I guess, I don't know. It's just lacking. Like, it's not fun. Has it, like you were saying, how you fight Nemesis or William or the Tyrant or or Jack, stuff like that. It wasn't that intense if you think about it. Like with all the other past,
It also doesn't feel like there's enough. Like, there's not a lot of strategy to fight the boss. Like in 7, when you fight Jack with the chainsaws and everything, like, you can kick the hanging bodies to kind of stun him. Or you can like duck when he's about to hit you with the chainsaw. And shit. Like, there's different little strategies in there. And 8, it's kind of straightforward. Like, how you're supposed to defeat him, and it's pretty easy. Especially towards the end, it gets very like they almost hold your hand and tells you here's how to fucking defeat him and shit. And with the exception of like, even the very, very last boss is kind of straightforward, but I thought that shit was really well done too. So even though they're straightforward, I like the visual of it, how it looks and how it plays out is really fun. It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't give you as much options
of how to defeat them, you're saying? Or yeah,
which, I mean, even in 2 and 3, in multiple playthroughs, you kind of know how to beat them too. But like that first time, there's different ways to kind of get the advantage, you know. And in this one, it doesn't feel like it. Like there's different ways to defeat a boss. It's just kind of straightforward, you know. So yeah, the bosses are a little bit lackluster. The last section is pretty annoying.
The factory,
and it can overstay its welcome, but it's not. It doesn't take away from the overall experience.
That's true. Yeah.
At least that criticism. But I can see how this game, in multiple playthroughs, it's going to be a bit more irritating, especially like the doll maker section is going to just be, for speedrunners, it's going to just feel kind of like bogged down. It bogs down the experience.
It
slows it down a little bit.
Yeah.
First time for sure, it's fucking awesome. But
intense.
If you play it through multiple times, it's just gonna lose its luster.
You'll be like, I want to get this shit over with. Like,
which even 7 had some of that issues too. Like when you're fighting, going through the Lucas section, and you're having to do that puzzle, the happy birthday thing or whatever. It's like after a while, you're just multiple playthroughs. You're like, come on, let's get it over with. Yeah. You start to notice the moments in the game where it kind of
slows down.
Yeah. But the first time playing it through is fucking incredible for sure. So there's a lot of good that outweigh the bad for sure. So what would your score be for Resident Evil 8?
For me, I would say for now, we don't know what's the future for Resident Evil 8 for now. You know, we don't know if they're gonna have DLC or
how more
stuff, stuff like
sure.
that. But for now, it is. I had so much fun with it, dude. I'm playing it now again, and trying my best to speedrun it. You know, let's see if there's an achievement or something. I'm having fun. Had fun. Great story. Great characters. Combat. But besides what we just said, the negative stuff, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It might change later on, like I said, if they add on new stuff or.
I think I'll have to agree. I think I'll also give it an 8.5.
Really?
Yeah. It's not. It's weird because you said in the beginning that it's like a Game of the Year contender, and it is.
It is.
But it definitely does have its issues. Which even, you know, for as much as I fucking love 2, it does suffer from those same issues where like some later sections just become very tedious and irritating. So it's a problem that you see in a lot of Resident Evil games. So Village is not free from that. It definitely still has it. So I'll give it an 8.5 too. But if you have a PS4 or PS5, definitely fucking pick it up. Or an Xbox.
It has, to say this, even though it has a solid rating from us, and to me, I feel like it is a Game of the Year contender later on the year. It has a lot of replayability
for sure.
So
you can play with different weapons. There's mercenaries,
different
playthroughs, or you can just speed run it.
So there's a whole bunch of shit to do in this game. So
you're definitely getting your money's worth if you pick this game.
Yeah. So
and if you're somebody who's like, it's in first person, I don't know if I want to play Resident Evil first person. Like, just fucking fuck off, okay?
Just,
that no longer is a criticism. You know, play this fucking game because it deserves your time, even if it's different from previous Resident Evil games where you're not fighting zombies, you're fighting werewolves. It's in first person. It's not in third person. It's still fucking good. It's still a Resident Evil game, which is weird because it doesn't feel or look like it, but it still has those elements of Resident Evil in there, even if it's in first person. So
it has the layers already.
Yeah.
Before we finish the podcast, I want to throw in my theory I have that I told you after I beat the game. If you guys have your own theories after beating the game,
should we say spoiler? this time.
I'm not gonna spoil anything.
Oh, so you're gonna have a...
Spoiler alert! Fucking every time I have to speak, spoiler alert. What are you gonna say now?
Give your fucking dumbass theory no one gives a fuck about.
Oh, shut up.
Go ahead.
Like, you don't have your own theories, too.
No,
Fucking...
because I keep them to myself because I'm not... I don't want to give a spoiler alert.
Well, yeah, every time I think it's still here.
Go ahead.
Well, if you guys have your own theories, too, or the story's going to lead up to, or whatever, what I told you was that I feel how Resident Evil 3 ended, how Resident Evil 8 ended, and how we know that there's going to be a remake with Resident Evil 4. And do we know if it's going to be still based in Europe or
I don't know,
or around that?
I feel like it's going to stay true to the original.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
I was telling you, I don't know if it will be in 9. A standalone game. It can be anything. Standalone 9 or spin-off, whatever, or Resident Evil 4 where Jill, Chris, and Leon will all meet up because there's a facility in Europe that where all these viruses or the one, especially the mold it came from. So, and yeah, so in Resident Evil 3, Jill finds out the plagas, right?
Yeah.
That's how, I guess, Nemesis is kind of
it's
formed.
like
Yeah, so knowing all that, I feel like they're all gonna meet up in the game, spin-off, DLC, or Resident Evil 9.
Yeah.
That's my theory. I feel like that's where it's all leading up to.
I mean, that would be fucking cool.
That's how I feel like that's how it's gonna happen. I don't know. It's just my theory, because how it connects and how all these kind of loose ends with all these games and they're hinting all this stuff. I feel like that's my theory, that all these 3 characters are gonna meet up again. And
I feel like your theory would make more sense if you just fucking said spoiler alert and spoil the fucking game.
I didn't spoil anything.
No, but you should have. That way it makes more sense what you're trying to get at.
If you guys know, you know. Right. If you haven't beaten it, just watch the ending and you'll know what I'm saying here. Do you have any theories? I just wanted to say that was like one of my theories that I got, reading the files, and like I said, how all these Resident Evil games lately, how it ended. To me, it feels like they're all gonna meet up in Europe and take down, whoever is part of this.
I don't know if I have any theories. I feel like I agree a lot with what you said. So,
are you saying that, or you just...
No, I really am saying that. I don't have much theories, because this game surprised me with where it was going, and I don't know if it could go anywhere.
I feel like they're gonna cross paths, like I said, DLC, spin-off, or a standalone game, or in the remake.
With the way it ended, I don't know. I mean, we'll see, because it just did. Definitely, for a lot of questions that were answered, there's still a lot more questions. So, I mean, I guess we'll wait and see for the night.
Well, now that we're I still want to, now we're in the mood of talking Resident Evil. If you guys already played the remake of Resident Evil 3, I just want to ask you this question. I don't think I have asked you. I already kind of answered it. I mean, asked it earlier. Was part 3? Some of the enemies later on have the plagas thing on their heads, right? Yeah. And that's Nemesis kind of plants them on them.
Yeah, and plants them in.
And there's a file containing that's where it comes from in some part of Europe, and is it called the plagas, or is it called something else?
They don't call it the plagas. I think they still stay true to the original game. I think it's was it not the T virus, it's the G virus? Whatever it is that oh man, I really gotta brush up on my lore, but I think they're still staying true with it. I don't think they call it Las Plagas, but it definitely alludes to it being
Las Plagas.
Las Plagas.
So
I feel like they're changing a bit of the canon with Resident Evil 3 remake.
So what are you saying? Is you think that's
Yeah, I think so.
now we're gonna see those type of enemies in 4? Yeah.
I think so.
So you're saying they're kind of like reworking the lore of Resident Evil.
Yeah. I mean, which is fine, you know, because the story is all over the fucking place. So if they're really trying to tighten things up and make sure everything ties together and everything.
Yeah, with Ethan's story
and with like how we're doing with remake 3 and everything.
And, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if in 4 that's what the enemies in 3 were. Like the reference that Nemesis was one of the early like Las Plagas monsters or some shit. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is. So
it just blows my mind that knowing that like Nemesis has that in him, like the Plagas virus or whatever. Yeah. That like he's the one of the Plagas, you know, transformations or stuff like that. That guess, you know, it worked on him basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just rambling on a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah. And we'll definitely continue the conversation on Resident Evil with the next episode that we'll be releasing after this one.
Okay.
We'll be talking more about Resident Evil, which that one we recorded before we did Village, but that will drop after this week's episode. So we'll be talking more about Resident Evil these next few weeks.
So yeah.
But yeah, Resident Evil 8 is a Game of the Year contender. It's better than 7 in a lot of ways, but
yeah,
lacks in some departments. But definitely go pick it up if you haven't. And if you haven't played 7, either do the recap or pick it up and play it too. Because this is it. This definitely is the year of Resident Evil. We got shows coming, the movie coming. Resident Evil 8 came out. RE-verse, which you didn't talk about that because that wasn't released yet.
No, yeah, there's no point of talking about it.
Yeah, so, but there's that as well. And we've just been this year, since the beginning of the year. I don't know why. I think we talked about it in that episode too, but we've just been playing a lot of fucking Resident Evil.
I think we covered on the next episode. So yeah, it's just like you were saying, yeah, from the beginning of this year, out of nowhere, we started playing Resident Evil series again, which is nice.
Yeah, just because it's one of our favorite franchises, and 8 was definitely. I'm still playing it, so it's a good sign. Anyways, with that said, we are going to be having some guests later in the future. Some friends.
We're having some friends, family members.
Maurice, who does Action Nerd Gaming. Shout out to him. He's doing really great with his YouTube channel. Been enjoying his gameplay. We might bring him on to do a retrospective of Call of Duty, because I think that'll be a heated topic. And who knows what we'll do with the podcast. Maybe we'll even leave some like polls or some shit on Facebook or for what we should talk about next. So yeah, this has been Two Brothers, and we'll see you guys on next week's episode of Two Brothers.
Two Brothers.
Two Brothers.
Two Brothers.